Hello and welcome to this demo on the switch activity. In this video, we'll learn how to use the switch activity in our workflows. Ready to begin? Okay, the switch activity allows us to select one out of multiple choices based on the value of a specified expression. This activity is useful when categorizing data according to a custom number of cases. For example, storing data into multiple spreadsheets or sorting through names of employees. It's a powerful tool in automating processes that involve making decisions based on certain conditions. Let's consider the following business case. We have the Invoices by Company Code folder that contains several invoices. We want to separate the invoices into folders based on the company code specified in the file name. To solve this scenario, we'll create a workflow that gets all of the files from the corresponding folder and loops through the files using a for each activity. It then checks the last three characters of the file name and moves the files accordingly. Let's do this. First, we'll create a new sequence. Name it Switch Sequence to group invoices. And add an annotation. Then we'll save the Invoices folder path to a variable. We'll add an assign activity. Rename it as Assign Set Invoices Directory and create the new string variable in the To field. Let's call it Invoices Directory. In the Value field, we'll add the relative folder path which contains the invoices. Invoices by Company Code. Let's not forget to add an annotation. Let's add another assign activity to get the list of files in the folder. Rename it and add an annotation. Next, create the new string variable in the To field. Let's call it Invoices List. Let's change the data type of the variable to an array of strings. We'll use the directory.getFiles method to set the value. This returns the names of files that meet the specified criteria. In our case, we'll write the following expression: directory.getFiles, and provide the folder path in the form of the Invoices Directory variable. The output of this expression is a collection of strings representing file paths. It's pretty straightforward so far. Next, we'll add a for each activity to loop through every file. For the In field, add the Invoices List variable. This activity will look at each file in the provided variable. We'll also change the current item name to Invoice. You've learned this already in the previous video, but it's a good moment to pause the video and check the argument type property of this activity. What did you notice? Indeed, the argument type changed automatically from object to string. Let's rename the activities. Alright, we want to get a file info object for each invoice. This type contains information about a file, including its name, size, and type. We'll use it later to move each file to its specified folder. To do this, we need to declare the variable of file info type, instantiate the object, and assign the object to the variable. We'll add an assign activity, press Ctrl+K to create a new variable. Let's call it File. Currently, it is of string type, but we need to change it to File Info. This variable will be a file info of each item that we get from the directory. To instantiate the object, we'll use the new file info expression and provide the invoice file path as the argument. Now that we have the information about our file, it's time to get the file name. This file name is the short name of the file without the extension. To do this, we'll use a second assign activity. And create a new variable called filename. To get the file name, we'll use this expression. Let's unpack this. The name property of a file info object returns the name of the file, which is a string. The substring method lets us output a segment of a string by providing a starting index and the length of the selection. The starting index is 0, but what does it mean that the length is expressed as last index of .c? This expression returns the index of the first character in the last occurrence of the string, provided as an argument. In our case, the argument that we provided contains only one character, the dot. So, this expression will return the index of the last dot in the file name. The C indicates that we're working with a character. Altogether, this expression returns the file name without the extension. Great! It's time to see the switch activity in action. We'll use it to move the files to the correct folder based on the last 3 characters of the substring extracted. To do that, let's get our file name and use the substring method to check the last 3 characters in our string. We'll use filename.substring and provide the parameter filename.length -3. This means that our starting index is 3 characters before the end of the string, and the length is whatever is left. Notice the validation error that we're receiving. That is because we need to change the type argument from int32 to string. And of course, let's rename the activity and provide an annotation. Next, we'll set the behavior for the cases. Let's start with a default case, the one where the input doesn't match any of the other cases. So, let's add a message box stating the name of the file and that it does not match the expected format. Let's enter the text as follows: the file, open quotes, plus file name, plus close quotes, is not named as expected, bracket, ending with a company code, close bracket. For each of the other cases, we'll set the value of the substring in the case value input field. Then add a move file activity to move the invoice to the designated folder. It's important to remember that the case input field is the only place where quotation marks are not used to write strings. We'll need the full path of our existing invoice. Let's enter file.fullname in the path input field. As you can see, file.fullname is different from file.name. File.fullname contains the full path, while file.name contains only the short name of the file. Now, all that's left to do is to add the destination path. To do this, we'll add the specific folder to the invoice directory. Check on the Overwrite checkbox. When selected, this overwrites the files in the destination folder with the file that is to be copied. Next, let's create a case for each other type of invoice that we have. For the second case, add the move file activity and change the destination folder. Again, let's enter file.fullname in the path input field and add the destination path. Check the Overwrite checkbox. Let's add the third case. And the last case is case JKL. It's time to see what we've got. Let's save and run our process. Refresh the project panel, and here it is. We have 4 folders containing the invoices according to their company code. Great! And this is how we build a switch in a sequence project. It's good to know that we can also use switches in flowchart workflows. To demonstrate this, let's consider the following business case. We have the Invoices folder that contains invoices from the last 4 years. We want to sort the invoices in different folders, one for each year. The last 4 digits in the file name indicate the year. This workflow follows the same logic as the sequence. Let's have a look. The flowchart uses these variables. The flow switch uses the same expression. And we have the 4 cases connected to move file activities. Let's run it. We receive the message box stating that all files were processed. Click OK and let's refresh the project panel. Here are the folders containing the invoices per year. While sequences can be easier to read and implement, in certain scenarios, other structures such as flowcharts may be more appropriate. It's important to consider the specific needs of the automation project and choose the structure that best fits the requirements and provides a clear, maintainable solution. As a short recap, we learned how to use the switch activity in sequence and flowchart. The switch activity executes a single case in the collection based on its match with a conditional expression. If the condition does not match any of the cases, the default one is executed. We can use the switch activity instead of an if activity to test the condition against at least 3 or more cases. For more practice on this topic, try to use the switch activity to find the grade of a student based on the score in a subject. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.